Most people don't live, they just exist. Socrates warned us of this over 2,400 years ago. He looked at the busy streets of Athens, merchants shouting, politicians arguing, people chasing wealth, and saw the same thing we see today: noise without purpose, movement without meaning. Look around. We're connected to everyone, yet we feel more alone than ever. We scroll through endless content, yet rarely pause to ask, why? Why do we keep running when we don't even know where we're going? Socrates believed that life without reflection isn't truly lived. He didn't mean you should meditate on a mountain or delete your phone. He meant something simpler and far more radical: to know yourself before trying to fix, please, or love anyone else. Because the truth is, your relationships, your peace, even your happiness, all begin with the one conversation you've been avoiding, the one with yourself. So what did Socrates know about love, connection, and understanding that modern people have forgotten? Let's step into his world and discover the Socratic secret to better relationships. We wake up and reach for our phones before we even open our eyes. We scroll, we check, we compare, 1,000 lives flashing before ours has even begun. Then we rush to work, to meetings, to errands, our minds already running miles ahead. By night, we collapse in bed, exhausted, yet strangely unfulfilled. It feels like life is moving fast, but somehow we're not going anywhere. Socrates would look at this and smile, not in judgment, but in recognition, because he saw the same illusion in Athens, people mistaking motion for meaning. They filled their days with chatter and ambition, but never paused to ask what any of it was for. And that's when he said the words that echo through time: an unexamined life is not worth living. It wasn't an insult, it was a wake-up call. Because the tragedy isn't that we die, it's that we go through life half asleep. How many days have you lived on autopilot, doing, scrolling, rushing, without ever asking, what am I really chasing? Is it success or just distraction? Is it connection or validation? We've mistaken being busy for being alive. We've filled every moment with noise, afraid of the silence that might show us who we truly are. But that silence, that pause, is exactly where Socrates found life's meaning. He believed the examined life begins not with answers, but with the courage to question. And maybe, just maybe, that's where our real relationships begin too. Not with more talking, but with deeper listening. Because if you can't hear yourself, how will you ever truly hear someone else? The greatest thief of our age doesn't wear a mask or break into your home. It lives inside your pocket, glowing softly, buzzing gently, feeding you tiny bursts of pleasure, one scroll at a time. Every time you check your phone, watch a "just one more" video, or refresh for new notifications, a small piece of your life slips away, unnoticed. Not stolen violently, but dripped away, second by second, like sand between your fingers. Socrates warned about this long before dopamine or algorithms existed. He saw people chasing popularity, possessions, and praise, all distractions from the deeper question: what is truly worth my time? He might have said to us today, "You're busy, but to what end?" Because activity without awareness isn't progress, it's noise. Think about it. You open your phone for a minute and an hour vanishes. You answer one email and somehow it's midnight. You say, "I'll start tomorrow," and the tomorrows quietly pile into years. We tell ourselves we don't have time, but that's not true. We spend it carelessly on things that ask nothing of us and give nothing back. We treat our attention like it's infinite, when in truth, it's the most fragile currency we have. Socrates lived differently. He walked slowly, listened deeply, and asked questions that stopped men mid-sentence. To him, time wasn't something to fill, it was something to feel. A sacred space for reflection, for dialogue, for meaning. And yet, here we are, trading that sacred time for moments of empty pleasure. Every ping, every scroll, every quick check, another trade. The hidden thief of time doesn't need to steal from you. It only needs your permission. And every time you say, just one more minute, you quietly give it. Socrates would ask, if time is the measure of a life, how much of yours have you already sold for nothing?
At some point, Socrates would stop talking and start asking. He didn't preach, he questioned. Because truth, he believed, doesn't live in someone else's words, it lives in your own realization. He might begin softly. Why do you live as you do? Why do you wake up to the same routine? What is all this effort for? Simple questions, but under his gaze, they cut through all your excuses. He made people see their lives not as they appear, but as they are. If you were sitting across from Socrates today, he wouldn't ask about your job or your status. He'd ask about your soul. Not in a religious sense, but in the sense of your center. The part of you that quietly asks, is this it? When you scroll at 2 a.m.? The part that feels the ache of wasted time, even when everything looks fine. He'd ask, do you live with intention, or do you drift? Do you choose your days, or do you just survive them? Do your actions align with what you say matters most? And most of us wouldn't know how to answer, because we've mistaken motion for meaning. We've been busy, not awake. Socrates held up a mirror to people's lives, not to shame them, but to wake them up. He believed that to examine your life is the beginning of truly living it. Imagine pausing your own day and asking, why am I doing this? Who am I becoming by doing it? Is this how I want to spend the only life I'll ever have? These aren't easy questions. They sting, they humble, but they also liberate. Because when you start to see your time clearly, when you stop pretending you have forever, you begin to choose differently. That's the Socratic mirror. It doesn't show who the world thinks you are. It shows who you really are and who you could still become. Socrates taught that no one can be truly free until they see themselves clearly. Because the greatest chains are not made of iron, they're made of unawareness. Think about it. Most people don't lose their time all at once. They lose it in pieces, 10 minutes here, a distraction there, until years pass and they wonder where life went. Not because they chose badly, but because they never noticed they were choosing at all. That's why awareness is the first freedom. Not motivation, not productivity. Awareness. It's the moment you step back and watch your own mind. When you see the impulse to grab your phone, the irritation rising in traffic, the anxiety before opening an app, and instead of reacting, you witness. That tiny pause is liberation. It's the space between life happening to you and you living it. Socrates would say, the examined life is not about control, it's about clarity. Because when you see what drives you, fear, boredom, ego, you gain the power to choose differently. Here's a small practice. Tomorrow, just observe one ordinary day. Notice how many times you act without thinking. Notice when your body moves faster than your awareness. Notice when you say, "I don't have time," even as you scroll mindlessly. No judgment, just observation. That's where change begins. Because time isn't truly lost until you stop seeing how you spend it. And once you see, really see, you can start to reclaim it. Awareness is like sunlight. It doesn't force growth, it simply reveals what's been hidden. And that's where freedom starts. Not by doing more, but by being awake in what you already do. Courage is not doing more, it's choosing less. That's a truth Socrates lived long before the age of distractions. He walked through Athens barefoot, owning almost nothing, yet his mind was richer than kings. Because he understood every yes to something meaningless is a silent no to what matters. Today, courage doesn't look like fighting lions or climbing mountains. It looks like deleting an app that steals your peace. It's saying no to people who drain your energy. It's sitting in silence while everyone else rushes to speak. Socrates would call that discipline, the art of inner order. He believed freedom doesn't come from adding more to your life, but from removing what blurs your vision. So what would happen if you dared to choose less? Less noise, less approval seeking, less distraction disguised as connection. Imagine opening your day without reaching for your phone. Imagine spending one evening without background noise, just you, your thoughts, your breath. At first it feels uncomfortable, then peaceful, and finally powerful. Because the moment you choose simplicity, you begin to reclaim time, not from the world, but from yourself. That's what Socrates meant when he said, "He who is not content with what he has will not be content with what he would like to have." You don't need to fill your life to make it meaningful. You need the courage to clear it. Choosing less is not losing. It's creating space for what lasts. Presence, truth, and love. And in that space, life finally begins to feel alive.
Warm. Awareness is not a moment, it's a way of living. Socrates didn't see reflection as a rare event. He saw it as a daily ritual. Each evening, he would ask himself 3 simple questions. What did I do well? What could I have done better? What did I learn? It wasn't about guilt, it was about growth. He knew that a day unexamined is a day forgotten. And when too many days go unexamined, a life slips quietly by. Imagine ending your day this way. You turn off your screen, the noise fades. You sit by the window, maybe with a cup of tea, and ask yourself, did I truly live today, or did I just move through it? No judgment, just awareness. There's a quiet story in that question. A man once realized he spent more time checking notifications than noticing sunsets. One day he deleted every app that didn't feed his soul. The first week felt strange, empty even. But then he started reading again, calling friends, walking without headphones. He didn't change the world. He simply came back to life. That's what living with intention feels like. Not dramatic, but deeply alive. It's not about productivity or perfection. It's about presence. Knowing where your time goes and why. When you live with intention, every hour becomes sacred. Every conversation feels real. Every breath feels earned. And that's the quiet victory Socrates wanted for us all, to live not by accident, but by awareness. Socrates faced death not with fear, but with calm. When the poison cup was handed to him, he didn't tremble. He spoke gently to his students, reminding them that no one truly knows what death is, and that wisdom begins with accepting what we cannot control. He valued life so deeply because he accepted its end. Mortality to him wasn't a curse, it was clarity. It stripped away the illusion that we have endless tomorrows. Most of us live as if time were infinite. We plan, postpone, and promise ourselves someday. But the truth is simple and sobering. Every someday is borrowed. And yet that realization isn't meant to sadden you. It's meant to wake you up. When you remember that life is finite, every small moment becomes sacred. A sunrise feels like a gift. A conversation feels like eternity packed into a few minutes. A shared laugh becomes something worth protecting. Socrates once said, "Death may be the greatest of all human blessings." He didn't glorify dying, he glorified awareness. When you know you will die, you finally begin to live consciously. Think about it. How different would you live if you knew your time was short? Would you still waste hours comparing, scrolling, regretting? Or would you start paying attention to what's already here? The warmth of someone's hand, the sound of your own breath, the quiet pulse of existence. This is the humility of mortality. Not to fear the end, but to love the middle, to cherish the time you still hold. Because only when you remember that life ends, do you finally begin to live it with grace. As we come to the close of our journey today, remember this. Question how you spend your time, because that's how you spend your life. Each choice, each moment shapes the story of your existence. Take a breath. Feel the calm that comes from awareness. Let reflection become a habit, not just an exercise. Let the wisdom of centuries guide your everyday steps. If this made you pause, subscribe, and let's keep exploring how ancient wisdom awakens modern souls. Together, we can live more intentionally, more fully, and carry this thought with you always. Don't waste your time. Live, examine.